Well, thank you for the invitation. And as I said before, we're really excited to be in the Platinum Club. Yeah, great honour for us. And I think Angie said to me when we got notified of that we got Platinum, she said, this is the highlight of my career. And so IIP has been really important to us and will continue to be as a kind of a way of testing what we're doing and getting some external validation that we are moving in the right direction. So it is a really important achievement for us. So I'm going to do the easy bit. So I'm going to top and tail this presentation, and I'm going to, in true chief executive fashion, leave Angie to do all the work. But I just thought I'd give you a bit of background on Companies House and where we're going. So, oh, can we go back to the other one? Yeah, just, I mean, we are an agency of government, so we're an executive agency based in Cardiff, and that's our headquarters, but we've got offices in Belfast, Edinburgh and London. And the thing that those figures at the top there are trying to show you is we deal with massive volumes. And so we've got it's actually up to about 4.6 million companies on the register now, and those volumes are increasing. And what that means for us as an organisation is, although we've got all the traditional, you know, we've got HR, we've got policy, we've got comms, all of those things, but we have the bulk of our staff are in processing jobs. And I think one of the challenges for us is around how we have engaged them and encouraged them, and I'll move on to talk about our behaviours in a minute, but to be involved when they're heads down, having to do, you know, so many cases a day, and against a backdrop of increasing workload. And so getting that energy and enthusiasm around the culture change and what we're trying to achieve has required a continuous effort. And we've got about 1,000 staff, and our people engagement levels, would be interested to see what they are this year, but are rising year on year. We have a huge 92% take up of the people survey that civil service does every year. And, you know, one of the things we go heavy on is we really want to hear from people. And so we've got 92% take up and a 70% engagement, which is something that's really encouraging. Can we move on to the next slide?
Sorry.
It's all right, don't worry.
So I'm trying to work off of 2 screens at the minute. So.
Okay, so I took up post as chief executive 3 years ago. I've just passed my 3-year mark, and it was really clear coming in that we needed to transform. We had like lots of government places, outdated legacy systems. We had a very benevolent but a very hierarchical command and control structure. People were kind of fairly stifled. They were happy and they liked working at Companies House, but there was a lot of because of that command and control structure, ideas being stifled, people not feeling they had the space to be able to speak up. You know, they put their heads down and they did what they were told. Managers knew best, and very much an entitlement culture. So I knew that we needed to change it. And one of the things I'm going to major on in this slide is I also had came into a senior team that weren't aligned with the values that I wanted for the organisation or to what we needed to achieve. And one of the things that I was going to say was really important in this journey, and it sounds like I'm some ruthless tyrant, but was to change that team, because I don't think you can be successful in delivering transformation for an organisation if you haven't got, I think, I'm not saying we need to have everybody in the same image. We are always, all of us, very different, and we do have some lively debates. but I always say our hearts are in the right place. So we share those values and we share that vision for the organisation. And our strapline for our transformation is brilliant people using brilliant services systems to provide brilliant services. But actually there is a reason that the brilliant people are there first, because we can't achieve anything unless without our people. So digital systems, I always say, are just things. They're things that are developed by our people. So people have been very much at the heart of what we try to achieve. So we were going in this direction anyway, and then a couple of things happened to us. One was we changed our status. So we were a trading fund where we were generating our own money. We were doing more or less what we wanted with that money. We had a lot of flexibility to adapt and change what we were doing, but we were bought into central government, which meant that we had to have much more control over what we were doing, and we were more limited. And that was quite a big culture change for us. And the second thing, which is something that's coming and has really provided a focus for our transformation, is that government wants us to change. So we're largely processing, we accept information that's given to us, and we publish it with very little checks. So that requires people with a skill set that is, you know, heads down, do it. And what basically, because of a rise in the misuse of companies for money laundering, modern day slavery, or kind of just basically wrongdoing, they want us to have a much more analytical, investigative, and a bigger role in helping law enforcement to identify that wrongdoing, which will require a whole different skill set for our people. It will inevitably change our culture, and you know, we will need to work in very different ways. So that has provided a kind of an end goal for the transformation and provided a real sharp focus on it that we need to deliver. So luckily we were going in the right direction for this, by good chance. And I think one of the things I wanted to just touch on here is we've been really successful in embedding the behaviours that we want our people to have, and these are quite different from the way that they were performing before. So adaptable, bold and curious has been really important to us in messaging to people what we want and how we want them to behave in order for us to be successful. And there's some lovely pictures there that we've got that talk about our strategy and our changing culture, but we just thought we'd share with you. I'm going to pass over to Angie now, and you can go to the next slide, Talika.
Thanks, Louise. And just before I talk about my particular slides here, I think one of the things that Louise wouldn't mention, but I will, is that her background, she comes from an environment where she has led on HR and people. And I don't know about the rest of you, but when you have a chief exec who has that type of experience and understanding, I can't tell you how beneficial it is, because it's not just words. They will put people at the heart of everything they do. And I definitely think that's one of the reasons that we've been able to make some of the huge changes we have over the last 3 years, but also build on some of the great work that was already being done. So she wouldn't have mentioned it, but I can. So I do think that point about the people coming first, it's lived and breathed every day in Companies House. So, and I think the fact that I have a role which is people transformation tells you everything, which is it really does matter. And having a place on the board where people issues are discussed every single day, that's definitely one of the things that I would want to share with this group. So, as we say, people are at our heart, and perhaps building on Louise's sort of comments about our culture and our strategy, what we did over the last sort of 2 to 3 years is think, how can we keep building on the voice that we want our people to have? And so what we did is we created a community, a culture community. We talked to all of the staff across the organisation and talked about what we wanted to cherish in our culture, those things we never wanted to lose, the community, the compassion, But then we talked about some of those things that we did want to change. And Louise has referenced those behaviours, the adaptable, bold and curious, because we truly believe that if we can really embed those behaviours, we will be able to succeed, particularly in relation to transformation. So we set up our culture community, and over the past 3 years, it has just grown to something which is, and I talk about magic, it is truly magical. So we now have 28 people networks with over 40% of the workforce involved in those networks. And they cover a whole range of different passions. We've got 10 diversity networks, women's network, LGBTQ, an ability network, our faith and allyship and culture and ethnicity network. But on top of that, we've also got a range of networks for other areas of passion. So our coaching network, our environmental network, our corporate social responsibility network. I could go on. And what I want to just share with you is that what holds those people together is a belief in the organisation and a desire to be part of change. And for me, that is really what the story is about, which is you can only achieve transformation, and most definitely in terms of achieving platinum from an Investors in People. Jackie, our assessor, one of her comments was that seeing across the organisation a genuine desire to be part of the change was one of the powerful things. On top of that, one of the other things I wanted to reference for you is we've moved away from performance management and appraisals. And what we've done instead is we are embedding a culture of conversations. So no mid-year review, no end-year review. It is ongoing, regular check-ins around 3 themes. Those themes are well-being, goals, growth, and growth. So every person in the organisation is having conversations with their line manager about those 3 key themes. And that again reinforces this message that, you know, growth and development is continuous, but also this is part of the transformation that we're talking about. So moving away from very sort of strict HR processes and policies to a much more fluid, engaged, 2-way conversation. Can we move on to the next slide? Thank you. So no conversation at the moment would be allowed without reference to COVID. Sorry, because we were having such a lovely time there, but we've got to bring it in because actually the last 8 months in particular, what we've seen is all those foundations we put in place with our culture change, our networks, they have just come to the fore. They have flourished. And you'll see on the slide, there's a strapline, do what you can when you can. And this was the message from Louise, myself, the executive team, when we moved into lockdown, national lockdown back in March. Very early on, clear messaging about let's take the pressure off people. We know everybody's dealing with very different circumstances, but ultimately they want to do a good job and we want them to do a good job, but we want to remove that feeling that if they're dealing with lots of very difficult stuff at home, they have to worry about work. So do what you can when you can has been our strapline, and the response from our staff has been phenomenal. A belief that they're trusted, that they will work hard, and that we understand and are sympathetic to their own personal circumstances. Throughout COVID, Louise has done a weekly video, which has been so well received. And alongside that, we've done regular communications. And we've also done a little ray of sunshine every Friday, which is a little video which showcases some of the positivity that I think, Marie, you mentioned we still need. And it has been so gratefully received. So you'll see there some of our key sort of strands, health and well-being, which has always been central to what we've been trying to achieve, but it's been even more important during COVID-19. So making sure that our staff are set up at home. So we've now got 80% of our staff working remotely with the right kit, the right equipment, but more importantly, the right support in terms of emotional support. And I mentioned our networks there. They have stepped up and provided support to colleagues alongside managers, and they've done that without any instruction, any requests. They've just filled a gap that might be missing in some organisations. And when you see the way those networks are connecting, particularly our mental health first aiders and advocates, it is amazing to see. I mentioned the mobile workforce. So we've still got about 150 people working in our offices, particularly in our Cardiff office. But we've also then managed to pivot and have 80% of the workforce at home. Working in this very different way has been challenging, and we are learning all the time, but we keep this focus of talk to us, this constant communication. What could we do better? How can we make sure people feel safe and secure, but we still deliver services? I referenced the communications there, which, as I said, we keep learning and we keep developing. And then against this backdrop, we've also been delivering our services to our customers. Customer satisfaction has never been higher, but we've also done that against a backdrop of an emergency bill that went through Parliament to make sure that we could support our colleagues, our customers, and also digitising services for customers. So amazing work going on to deliver these amazing services to our customers. And again, when you think about investors in people, it's about being able to deliver in the tough times as well as the good times. Can we go to the next slide, please? Louise, over to you for the takeaways.
Hold on, took me a minute to get myself all back on then. So the thing that I would echo from Angie, what Angie said, is Companies House is just a beautiful place. I mean, the people are amazing, and they're just willing to embrace the things that you want to try to do and to have a go. And I've never worked anywhere where you know, we don't, and I'll say we don't always get everything right, obviously, but people are willing to try, and they're those adaptable, bold and curious behaviours in the embedding of them have made people willing to tell you, I don't think this is working, let's try and improve. So that's been a huge point. We do need, and it's something we're grappling with at the moment, in this new world we're working in, to continue to focus on keeping that special quality of Companies House, the feeling of inclusivity and belonging. So we're continuing to work on that and to try and come up with new ideas, but also to learn from others in that space. And the same with collaboration, innovation and connection, because it will be very easy to lose that in the current environment. And so we're working extra hard with them through the networks, but through all sorts of other things that are really important in terms of kind of making those connections, but also not the ones that you make every day, but across the organisation, so that we don't kind of revert to silo working. And what we're trying to do is to use our data to inform our decision making, and so we're kind of really ramping up in the collection of data, in understanding the impact of the decisions we make and how people react to them, but also using some lovely stories. And we've got Sonzare there who joined us, I think, just before we went into lockdown, and is part of our diversity campaign. But you know, those stories help people to feel that connection to the organisation, but also to see what's important to us. And so they're the things for the future for us. You did throw me there, Angie, because you were going to do that slide and I was doing this one, but it's fine.
Sorry, Louise, my battery was going. So
oh, right. That's right.
I had to just sort of panic and start it back again.
Trouble is, well, the good thing is Angie and I both love to talk, so we can just carry on and talk about anything. So what's next? Obviously, you know, COVID, we've really made some big strides in terms of, you know, we were always aiming to move to a hybrid working, of having people working from home. I reckon it would have taken us about 10 years to get there. But so the impetus from having that burning platform has really enabled us to kind of move to more flexible working. It's perhaps not that flexible because everybody's not having much choice at the moment, but we've just done it, and now we need to go back round the loop and to make sure, because really what we've done is people are working in the same way as they were in the office at home, but we now need to kind of go back and mature that approach to flexible working and to kind of the artifacts or constructs we use to make that really work well for people. leadership development is going to be hugely important, and management development. Managing and leading remotely requires a different mindset and different skills, and so we're having a big focus on that in our L&D offering. The culture of conversation, you know, that's what we've implemented, but it's quite immature. So we need to give people the confidence to be able to have those conversations so that they really are meaningful rather than tick box. I mentioned data before. That's really important. And again, you know, we've made great strides, but we've still got more to do. I think the storytelling is really important, and it's something actually that we were trying to embed prior to this happening. And actually what was interesting was that a lot of our senior managers did find it really difficult. And so we need to do some more work on that. They found it difficult to see the whole and to be able to tell the story and make the connections for people. So, you know, that's why we've done those pictures that you saw of our strategy, because it brings it to life in a visual way for people, how all the different bits fit together. Again, personal accountability. I mean, we are quite a kind, well, we're a very kind organisation. And I think one of the things that we did was look at what is it that makes us special, and what's the flip side, the negative side of that. And so one of it, so we are kind, we are very supportive as an organisation. And I think, you know, getting people to step up and be accountable for things is something that's sometimes a bit lacking, so we need to work on that. And the final thing actually came back to us through Jackie and her kind of feedback from our thing, which is around how we exploit the diversity of thinking. And I think that was a really interesting point that we need to work on, and we're kind of doing in a more conscious way already, but again, it's an area that we need to go further on. And so that's the end of it really, except to say, you know, thank you for the opportunity to tell you about what we've been doing, and we are aiming to go on and improve, continue to improve.